All right. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Feel free to take your devices off mute. Let us hear your voices.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello. All right, we're going to be very respectful of everyone's time today. So we're going to just kind of start with our normal throwing out a few positive vibes into the atmosphere. So if you feel comfortable, please take off your device off of mute and let us know something's positive happened in your life. Doesn't have to be anything big. We'll take something. We had a wonderful talk with one of our interns today. So I'll throw that out there as positive for me, is just seeing a young future STEM pioneer get a great internship with our Fermilab connection and making some great growth in their first few weeks. So that's my positive. Somebody else, please feel free to share something positive happened for you.
Hello, my name is Nu. I'm currently a fifth year at UWM. Something positive that happened today was just that I'm catching up on my lab work. And so it feels good to not procrastinate, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Really appreciate that. And it does feel good when you finally sit down and get it done. And sometimes you realize from a procrastination standpoint, you're like, man, I could have done this a long time ago.
Exactly.
Yep. All right, one more. Come on, somebody out there. Let me know something positive happened for you. All right, one last try. Drum roll, please. One positive thing, something that has just went a little bit forward for you over the last time, since the last time we talked. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get it started. Thank you all for sharing, and we're looking forward to a great session tonight. We have three wonderful guests with us tonight, team. Really appreciate their time and efforts to come spend with us, but also I thank you for joining us tonight, and we dialogue and in our questions so we can get the best feedback for you to help you on this journey of success. So as we talk about this biomedical space tonight, I want to take a moment and allow our panelists to introduce themselves. So we'll just go kind of in order of what you see on your screen here. We'll start with Daisy. So Daisy, can you just let everybody know who you are, a little bit about your background and what you're doing right now, and then we'll get into more detail as we go through the panel discussion throughout the night.
Yes, definitely. Hi, everyone. I'm Daisy. I'm so happy to be here and hopefully provide tips or my story or something that will be helpful for you moving on to graduate school. I am a second, moving to third year PhD student at MD Anderson Cancer Center. I am studying leukemia and new drugs to overcome resistance to cell death. And I absolutely love what I am doing. I am a Puerto Rican. All my life studied in Puerto Rico and then only moved to Houston, Texas for my PhD. So I am excited to answer your questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Daisy. We'll go forward here. Mr. Howard, could you do the same?
Hi, everybody. My name is Howard Nicholson. The third, I am a first year graduate student at Columbia University, and I graduated from University of Maryland, Baltimore County with my BS in chemical engineering last spring. And I am in a tissue engineering lab here. I work under Dr. Clark Kung, and I recently just started a project that's looking at how like bleeding affects ACL repair. So we work like musculoskeletal tissue engineering. And yeah, I'm excited to, like Daisy was saying, share any tips or in my story, and hopefully it resonates with you all.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Howard. Mr. Jared, come on in.
How's it going, guys? So as I said, so I'm Jared. I originally went to college at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, UAB. And then I took a year off, did a post-bac program here, which got me up to Indianapolis. But currently I'm a 7th year MD PhD student here up at the IU School of Medicine, which is in 2 years of med school, and I'm currently in my 5th year of grad school. And so the gist of my research is that I'm trying to understand how concussion changes your immune system and how that can lead to long-term chronic pain. So my PhD will be in medical neuroscience. So if you guys have any questions about any of that, just let me know.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you all so much for your introductions. Let's do just a little bit of housekeeping. If you do have questions, please feel free to take a few pads. You can use the Q&A box. You can also use the raise your hand feature. We'll be monitoring both to make sure that we get as many of your questions answered. We'll start the conversation with some questions that I have for our guests, but as they're discussing, as they've introduced themselves, if things come to your head, please feel free to raise your hand and use the Q&A box. So we'll start with an easy one for all of our panelists to go through. We like to help our students understand kind of the journey of how you are where you are, and just that it's not always the exact same path of getting to your final destination. So if you can go through, how did you land on what you're studying now? And how does that compare to what you thought your journey was going to be when you first started undergraduate studies? So let's start the opposite direction. We'll start with you, Jared.
All right. Yeah, so I guess my journey is kind of a roundabout journey, not very straightforward and on the linear path. Like I said, so I'm an MD PhD student, but I had no idea about the path or what MD PhD was until probably the summer between my junior and senior year of college. And at that time, I did a summer MD PhD program, and that's what kind of showed me about both paths and why you didn't put them together. But even then, I still wasn't sure. So I actually took a year off after college and did a post-bac program here in Indianapolis at IUPUI. And in that year, I actually worked with my current PhD advisor, and and working with him and seeing his former MD PhD students kind of gave me an idea of the path ahead and understanding what it would take, and also but empowering me that I could also pursue this path so that I could succeed in. And so for me, I found a lot of mentors in that year off, and that kind of empowered me and gave me the time and courage to pursue this path, because it's not short. And so that part I had to wrap my head around. But at 7 years in, and I have no regrets. So it's been worth it.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Howard, same question.
So I've done a lot of research, and I guess I started relatively early. I was in a STEM magnet program in high school that exposed me to a lot of research, which was great. And I've kind of known since middle school that I wanted to get into biomedical engineering. I don't think I said that earlier yet. My PhD programs for biomedical engineering. So when I got to undergrad at UMBC, we didn't have biomedical engineering as a major. So I knew I still wanted to kind of have the engineering education, and also at the same time kind of get prepared for biomedical engineering with still having a learning about biology as well. So I chose chemical engineering as my major with on the bio track. That was the closest that we could get. So, and chemistry was very difficult. So I definitely had my struggles going through the major. I did do a 5th year, which I feel like I did not originally anticipate. And I remember there was a phase when I wanted to go get my MD PhD And then, yeah, I changed my mind, obviously, and now I'm just doing my PhD. So yeah, as the years have passed, my path has definitely changed based off of my interests and my different exposures. I've been grateful to have a lot of different research experiences that showed me different fields that and research topics that I did like and didn't like. And then and eventually that led me to where I am now at Columbia.
All right, for me, I did in undergrad, I did chemistry. But like in my second year of undergrad, I noted that the reason why I wanted to do research in chemistry was actually so that I could develop potentially compounds that would help patients with cancer. So really my purpose was like moving beyond just the chemistry. And so I started applying to undergrad summer programs, and I got into 2 in total in my undergrad. Like I did Station 1 Frontiers Fellowship, and in that one they matched me to someone working in a biotechnology company. So I developed a project with them, worked all summer there, and also at Massachusetts, University of Massachusetts Biomedical graduate school. And so that's the way that I was able to transition, I think, between chemistry going to biomedical sciences and having projects more focused in cancer biology and cancer therapeutics.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daisy. So we'll set up another question. And this one will be a little bit more challenging, but we want you to be extremely transparent. When you were considering, making your commitment in your biomedical space or just in your STEM space in general, what were some of the reservations you had, some of the fears you may have had, some of the stereotypes that you may have thought were going to be there, and how did you overcome those, and were any of them actually as real as some of your assumptions going in? We'll start with Howard on this one.
Can you just to repeat, just to confirm, so you're saying like any assumptions that we had and reservations that we had before joining our programs, and what we have now been able to confirm?
Yeah, because many of our students, people share what their fears or concerns or doubts. Some of our students have assumed certain fears, concerns, and doubts. And I just want to talk about the reality of you all have gone through this journey and you're in this journey. I think it'll help our students, one, provide some confirmation that some of these things are real and we have to overcome them. But sometimes we can create doubt that is not truly needed.
Yeah, for me, of course, coming into this program as a minority, like when I was kind of making my decision about choosing graduate programs, this one I was aware did not have, there were always few minorities, specifically Black people, and there's just not many in academia. But in my program, I am the only one in my cohort. So I did have reservations about what my experience would be. UMBC is not a HBCU, but I was in a program also called Meyerhoff Scholars. And so I was around a lot of Black people in undergrad. And that was amazing to be around people that looked like you and also had similar interests. So I was nervous for what that experience would be like. And I wouldn't say, I'm still adjusting with that. Even though I knew I was going to be in New York, so we're in like a big city, a big melting pot. But I don't have much interaction with Black people on the daily, which just is an adjustment, but that's just the real world. That's how it works, unfortunately. So that was one concern that I had. Another was kind of choosing my lab environment. I wanted to have a positive and social lab environment where I'm being challenged as a researcher and as a student, but where I'm also able to easily collaborate with my members and also socialize and have a family environment. So that was something that I actively sought out in my interviewing and application process and looking at different places. yeah, and so I feel like, and going back to what I was saying earlier, like I guess like another concern I had was just finding community, being able to find community, whether that was in my lab or through like student organizations, and just what life would look like in the graduate space, and like in comparison to the undergraduate space. Because once you get to graduate school, it is, even though we are on the campus and we are exposed to undergrads, there's not as many like clubs and organizations, or depending on the school, that are available, and that you have access to. So I was just concerned about what life would look like for me. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. What are your thoughts on that?
Me next. All right.
Oh, no, you can go, Daisy. I said Jerry maybe didn't hear me, or maybe it didn't go.
Daisy,
Yes,
you can
no,
go.
you can go, Daisy.
Okay. For me, I had to, so when I decided I wanted to do a PhD, my biggest concern was that I thought I have to move out of Puerto Rico. Like I want to do it in the United States. And that meant like being away from my family, also always speaking English, right? And so my doubts about whether like, even if I knew enough the language to be confident and interact with the scientists, if I was independent enough to go live up by my own in the United States without knowing anyone in the state. So those things got me a little insecure, of course, or a lot, before accepting the position as a PhD student. But things I heard from other PIs actually helped, like for the language barrier. What I heard was it's always important what you're going to say, not how your accent sounds. So I always like held on to that, like your accent actually tells you where you come from, and that you actually have maybe a bigger skill set than the people you're talking to, because you know more than one language. So it's like always be proud of where you come from, and your accent just might reveal that, but it's okay. What you have to say is much more important. In terms of the family, I noticed like I feel much more comfortable when I am around Latin people. Like it doesn't have to be necessarily people who I know for all my life, but if I know that I'm joining a graduate school that can potentially have many Latin students, that's something I found would make me feel more comfortable, and that actually took a role in my decision. Like at MD Anderson, the cohorts are very diverse. There's Latin students, Indian, Chinese. There are so many cultures here, and actually one of my biggest support groups right now are my Latin friends. And then what else? Things that I thought were, for example, if my purpose of basically just in general finding cures for cancer, or actively making discoveries in cancer, is this something realistic? And if I talk to other friends or other students, they might have said like, you want to cure cancer, that's just very childish and stuff. But I didn't know at that moment that there existed a place like MD Anderson, where it's like the #1 cancer center, and it does so many clinical trials that stem out of laboratories where graduate students are working, and that actually those clinical trials improve the life of patients today, not necessarily in 50 or 100 years. So those are the things that were my concerns and how I'll deal with it.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for your transparency. This is very helpful. And then we'll go with Jared, and then we do have a question for the audience.
So I also was pretty worried coming in about, having people look like me, and also some type of support in that area. And so like on the interview trail, when I was interviewing for it on the MD PhD path, like I ran into, different bouts of racism that people would, little snippets that people would throw my way, and of course that takes a toll on you over time. But one thing that really helped me, and I was blessed to have this, was In the lab that I was working at the time, there was a current MD PhD student who was also Black. And so I could kind of just bounce stuff off him. And so he kind of, just kind of shared his perspective on things that would happen, kind of like also empowered me and, just kind of gave me a safe space to discuss things, so I could say, well, this is what happened to me. He's like, yeah, this similar thing happened to me. And this is, how I got through that. And so I was really blessed to have a person in the same field as myself, in the same lab, especially, who had an idea of what I was going through. I mean, because as the other two panelists have said as well, like, the field that I'm in is not that diverse yet. And I have faith that maybe one day it will be, but it is not just yet. But I found the other minorities in my program. And so we were able to have a good, healthy discussion around those times. And when things come up, we've now developed like a safe space to kind of like reach back and go to kind of bounce those things off of. But along with that, you get the, sometimes you might think, oh, maybe they picked me because, I'm fitting the quota or something like that. But it doesn't matter how you got in the door, it's what you do when you get there. And so like, that's how I kind of dealt with the imposter syndrome that I felt maybe earlier on in the program. But now being 7 years in, I'm in this. So it's come a lot further. It'd be harder to quit now than it would be to go forward. So I'm all the way in now. But we've all had to deal with our own struggles on this path, no doubt.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that detail. I want to go to the question that was in the chat about have you had any doubts in your career choice? I think based off of the way you answered those questions, I want to tailor that just a little bit differently. I want to ask you about right now. So the way we just asked the previous question was about, when you were starting, what you were thinking about. I want to know, now that you're in it and you are, knee deep in it at this point, you all have commitments. What are some of the challenges that you're facing right now? And then what are some of the same doubts that you have to overcome for yourself at this current moment?
Yeah, I can start if you guys don't mind. So I guess one of my something I dealt with for the longest, especially going through COVID, was and being in grad school. Graduate school has a lot of learning moments, we'll say. Like things don't work out as planned, and so it's the constant trying to figure out why this didn't work when you've already figured out why it didn't work the first 17 times. So it's like find that motivation to figure out the 18th time why this didn't work. It was tough, and that's something that I had to really deal with. And then, going through the whole COVID pandemic and 2020 being all isolated, that really didn't help trying to figure out and stay motivated with all this other stuff going on in the world, but also trying to figure out the issues with the research. So that was probably, I'd say, one of the hardest times in the grad school journey for myself, at least, was just trying to stay motivated during everything that was going on. And when experiments not working. I can tell you guys, like, easily, I've started my thesis project over 3 times now because of different things that happened, or things not working well, or because the building shuts down because of COVID and we have to start over. But I would say I haven't had any doubts lately because, I mean, right now, I can see the finish line. Like, I'm in my 5th year, the grad school portion of the MD PhD portion program. And so I can see the finish line. Like I plan on graduating the PhD, defending it in like December or January. So, I mean, I can see that end goal. And so that's kind of helping me to stay focused, seeing that at least I have something to look forward to and that it's all going to be worth it in just a few months. So that's helped me at least to stay and put away the bouts of imposter syndrome, but also stay focused and assured of my career choice.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Daisy, Howard, you want to give that question a try based off of where you are right now, some of the current challenges you face, and maybe even some of the same, not same, but some of the more current doubts that you have to overcome in order to continue to persevere in your current state?
Yep. For a lot of years, an issue with me has been that I don't necessarily know what my next step is going to be, and that makes me anxious or question, like, how am I going to do this? But what I found is that all the steps from undergrad, taking an internship, or starting a research program, then moving to graduate school, doing rotations, finding a lab, in all of those steps, we actually always have the opportunity to change our direction and to discover actually where we want to go. I wish I knew this from my first internship, because I remember I applied saying I wanted to do medical school. And then in the middle of the internship, I didn't feel comfortable enough to say, like, oh, I think I actually don't want to do chemistry or medical school, and I want to move to cancer research. But like I would tell you to always be open to explore career options or different fields. If you want to do graduate school and you're sure about it, but you're not sure 100% about what topic you want to research on, that's okay. Like, you don't have to have the answer right now. Even when you do enter graduate school, you get the opportunity to do rotations in 3 or more laboratories and explore different fields. So like, having the mindset of just like be open to change and actually find what you want to do with your life and your career. That's what's been helping me. And another concern that I have is when I feel like, if I ever feel like my project is not going to be the most impactful, I start questioning, like, is this project worth it? But that is also a very valid question. And that is also something that you need to hear yourself, and you need to actually seek help. For example, in Ph.D, I have my advisory committee. So at my committee meetings, I can bring that up and say, like, I am concerned about this piece of data, how should I move forward with this, and stuff like that. But just don't silence the questions that you have about your project. And I also heard a quote that once that said, like, scientists are too quick to grab a project, but too slow to let it go. So also, like, continuously monitor what direction should I take and what should I leave behind.
Yeah, for me, I am, as Jared was saying before, I'm much further from the finish line. I wish I was as close as he was. So yeah, I do. There are times when I definitely have doubts whether there's a lot of ups and downs in research, specifically with whether your experiments are working, and also I guess like current challenges that I've been facing is I've worked in other labs before, but in this lab, I guess just like the onboarding process and like training for these specific things they do. And also, look, I'm now a graduate student. I'm no longer a summer intern or undergraduate student. There is a lot of like, I did want to become more independent and more confident as a researcher. So there are days that, like, sometimes I might be doubting my abilities as a researcher, whether it's because I'm proposing a new project and like wondering if it's going to work, or whether I'm just having experiments that aren't going well. So yeah, there's good days, there's bad days. I think things that like help to keep me going, or like I was saying before, which were concerns that I had before going to graduate school, is building that sense of community. So whether that's through people within your cohort or in your lab, or even outside of your lab. Even though I'm the only Black student in my cohort, there's a total of like 5 Black students in the department, which is still really small, but we are able to like get together, and we just had one who recently defended. So I think even though I am further from the finish line, it was amazing to like see somebody else who looked like me who did successfully get through the program. And then also I'm able to at times like vent or just share concerns or any doubts that I'm having, and learn that other people have experienced the same things too.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. Want to throw out another question for you. hopefully not too much of a curveball. So how do you, with all the demands that you have on yourself academically in this biomedical space, how do you keep some form of balance and connection to the world that goes beyond checking your TikTok account? So, but in all seriousness, how do you stay connected? How do you try to keep relationships? How do you stay connected to family in the midst of the academic demands that you have?
I guess I can start. So one thing that's important to me is the whole work-life balance. And for me, if I don't see a good work-life balance, I don't see why I should do this thing. And so I took that mentality when I started med school, and I've applied that also to grad school. And so luckily for me, I try to focus my time to always have time to do my hobbies. And because I don't feel like you should lose yourself in your career. That's just my personal thing. And so I like my hobbies that I really enjoy. I'm really into board games. I mean, COVID and being stuck at home kind of really got me into that. I like racing and I like trash reality shows, you know. And so like I have to have this. And so like I have to get my daily dose of all this stuff, but I also play a lot of video games. So I mean, I almost feel like it's tough to balance work with all my hobbies, but I feel like I'm also in a lab though, where my PI understands my personality and my personality type. And so he gives me a lot of space to breathe. So he's not a guy who makes me like have like strict deadlines. He's like, I know you'll get it done. And so just get it done, which allows me to, you know, work intense on something at a time, also take time off to breathe, you know. But also during the middle of all this, like I got married, you know, and so that's also really helped balance things, you know, not taking life so seriously, you know, just having another person here kind of like also with a similar mentality that helps kind of keeps things balanced as well. So for me, I've made, to answer the question shortly, I made it a point back in college and starting back in med school that to put a huge focus on the work-life balance and to make sure that I always had time for life and that work would not absorb it. So that's helped me to always keep that balance for myself. I know it looks different for everybody.
Thank you for that. I'm over here taking notes myself. I say I'm the best at it. So I love asking this question to other people because I am not the best. So I like to learn from you all as well. Anyone else like to share on that question?
Yeah, for me, I think my friends here in the PhD know, like I always advocate for them to take the time off lab, like after, like in the night. If you don't really need the data for tomorrow, my biggest wish for you is that you're overworking just because you're so motivated. It's not that somebody's putting the pressure on you or that you are feeling very miserable in lab and stuff like that. So I say, like, if you are working in the weekends, I really hope it's just that you really can't wait to see that data because it's fulfilling you and everything. Because after all, like while you're doing the PhD and then working and then moving on to bigger and bigger positions, like you're also always living. So I think the thing that I do is that I put the priorities in lab, like what do I have to complete by X deadline, and what like I do my timeline, like what do I have to complete by X deadline, and actually how many hours am I going to be in the lab per day. Whatever is not completed in that time, if I am not feeling like I can complete it and take care of myself as well, then it's left for the next day. Or if it was a Friday, it's left for the next Monday. Because rushing, actually, I always think it never works out. Always some issue will come up and it will delay. But also key to be able to do this, manage my own time in the lab, has been to find my advisor. And like Jared said, she's understanding. And she also understands things that are very important for me, like visiting my family in Christmas, like spending time with them in Puerto Rico. And that's a priority for me. Like before choosing the lab, I clearly say like I need to be in December, this last 2 weeks in Puerto Rico, as like if it is possible. So like know your priorities in your life and also in your work.
Yeah, for me, yeah, I'm a social person. So like I said, that was one of the things I was looking for was a social lab. So of course we want to be able to get our work done, but that like we can go out as a lab together and do different lab activities. And so yeah, so I'm able to I feel like I also prioritize making sure that I have a work-life balance. I enjoyed music. I think there are definitely ways to improve that. Like Jared was saying, I think I do need to get a little bit more into putting more time and energy into hobbies that I like do enjoy and that I was able to do like more so in high school. But I do give myself a lot of freedom to enjoy life and enjoy the city. A lot of people hopefully you're fortunate enough to go to graduate school in a new environment, a new space. And I think the time that you're there, whether it's like 5 years or give or take, it's a great time to explore the city that you're in with your lab and with your friends. So outside of, I guess, like doing things with friends in terms of family, it wasn't a huge factor, but I would say it's a pro of going here in Columbia. I knew I wanted to leave. I went to school in state. I'm from Maryland. So I knew I wanted to leave, but New York isn't really that far. So I'm able to get home pretty easily. It's only like 3 to 4 hours. So I'm able to get back home on the weekends and see my family, or they're able to even come up here. And then like everybody was saying, I feel like transparency with your PI, whether you're like grinding really hard for like a month or a few weeks, and you just need kind of a mental break. And you can, for my lab, the way my lab works is there's just a little bit more flexibility. So like, I was able to I planned a trip to the UK I went to like London and Amsterdam and Paris. And I just asked my PI ahead of time if that would be okay if I took a week off, and he was okay. So I feel like making sure that you have that transparency, and also when you're going through the interview process of looking for a lab, making sure that you're interviewing the lab and the PI as much as they're interviewing you. So kind of learn what, and also learn from other people in the lab what like their work-life balance looks like, or what their social life looks like, whether if that's something that's important to you, like catering to your hobbies or traveling or doing those things, and make sure that that also works with the lab and what the PI wants.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for that. Want to kind of flip the tone of some of the questions a different direction. So we always talk about some of the challenges, overcoming something. I want to take a different approach with the next question. Share 1, 2, 3, however many things that you feel like you want to share. Share something that's just awesome about your journey. What has been awesome about your field of study? What has been awesome about grad school? Give us some of the things that maybe, until you're in it and you're going through it, you don't realize, the joy that you should have in that process. And even if it's not from a graduate school standpoint, talk about now that you're out of your undergraduate studies, some of the things that you look back on now as a grad student and say, you know what, man, maybe that wasn't too bad. I didn't enjoy it while I was in it because I didn't realize a certain thing or something like that. Because our students are going through it right now. They're where you once were. So talk about some of the joys of the process as well.
Yeah, I could start. So one thing I realized, which I kind of goes against what I thought would happen. I realized I think I worked a lot harder in college than I had to in med school. And then I also worked harder in college than I had to work in grad school. So I do think college is really tough, is what I'm realizing. Because college, I think, is you're trying to prove yourself and get to the next step. And so you put so much time and effort into everything that you do. Where I think once you get to this next step, that it's a lot easier to kind of maintain and hold on and succeed. So like I realized like I worked 3 jobs in college. And so when I came to med school, and the first couple of years of med school before going to the grad school portion of the MD PhD program, I felt like I had extra time. you know, like, because most graduate schools pay a stipend. And so I didn't have to like support myself financially as much. So I was like, well, I have more time to just do hobbies. I'm not having to work as much, you know? So I was like, well, this is great. I can just have fun for the most part and do what I need to do with the amount of time that I'm used to having. And so this is maybe bad advice, but it's true, because this is what happened. My medical school class voted me the best procrastinator in the class, because I got so used to not having as much time to do stuff. I could just do things in a short amount of time, and it worked for me. But I know everybody works at a different time scale, but I'm a huge procrastinator. But I feel like I was so used to working so hard in college that in medical school, using that same amount of time, it was almost too much, you know? And so, something else I'm really happy about, because I've been in this, I guess, field and program now 7 years, is be able to mentor a lot of people along the way, and just seeing everybody else's journey. It's really cool. It's just seeing how everybody kind of learns what they need to do and what they want to do, just from personal experience or from conversations and just growth over time. It's really inspiring to see everybody, especially everybody in college, as you guys are, just here, because you guys are, the fact that you're here is you're ahead of the game. And you're working so hard now that when you get to your next step, graduate school, medical school, or MD, PhD, you'll be way ahead, and that you can do it.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else like to share?
Yeah, I would definitely say some things that, like you were saying, Jared, the difference between undergrad and grad. I feel like you'll see, graduate school, you have way more flexibility and free time with your schedule than you do in undergrad, because at least how my program works, I don't have as many courses to take. So, but you might clock a lot of hours in lab. And then I feel like it's a lot of people do this kind of people might do this once you get to undergrad. I feel like definitely they do it once you get to graduate school. At the end of the day, sometimes you're just tired. It's like, how did I wake up and go to class at 7 in high school and get through all of these other things? So life does look different as a graduate student, as an adult. But I think there's also great things about the experience. I mean, hopefully for most students, for a lot of STEM PhDs are funded, so you're getting paid to do your work, which is amazing. But there's also more responsibilities. You're like officially an adult. So yeah, you just have more like adult responsibilities to do. You might be moving into like your first apartment. I got a dog recently, which is new for me. I've never had a dog before. So all of those things, you have a lot more flexibility, and you can do a lot of different things. And that's some other rewarding things through starting the graduate program, is I think mentorship is a big thing for me as well. I've been mentored and been fortunate to have great mentors. I am just finishing my first year, but I did sign up to become a student mentor for incoming students, and also just helping like increasing the amount of Black students that are in my department. Like I said, they've had like about one every cohort, which is not that much. I mean, of course, not huge. It's 24, but still, that's a pretty low amount. The next year, me and the other Black students, I feel like we sometimes we're on like different diversity panels and in different organizations, and we're going to have 2 new students coming in next year. So I hope to kind of serve as like in a mentoring role with them. And then I've been able to tutor students, high school students in New York. So I think there's a lot of different opportunities that you can have in graduate school as you gain more experience as a student and a researcher, and then being able to give back to the community is also really cool too.
Okay, for me, something very exciting has been traveling through my undergrad and also as a PhD student, traveling to conferences. Like, I had never left Puerto Rico until I had my first conference in New Orleans. And then after that, I've been to Orlando and Atlanta, and in my PhD, like I still am super excited to apply to go to a conference, not only for the science, but also to visit the place. Like, I think that's an advantage something that we get to live as PhD students. Something else is that I find it very different every day in the lab. Like one day I had to send a package to a collaborator and he was in Germany. So I found that exciting. And then another day I have to freeze some patient cells. And then another day I do a protocol for the first time. And then the next day I'm training somebody, like an undergrad student. I'm training her to do the protocol. So I find it very dynamic. I love that it's not the same thing every day. So it makes me excited to come back. I also like that at this stage, and even as an undergrad, like I've always been able to do something with my knowledge today. Like when I was an undergrad studying chemistry, I was super active in the American Chemistry Society. So I would do a lot of visits to schools and would share chemistry in a very fun way to students. And students at the end of the show would say that they wanted to be a chemist. And obviously, I don't know yet if they're going to be or not, but probably some will. So I think it's amazing that at any stage, we can always do something with what we know. We just have to get out there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So we'll go through one more question for each of you today. And on this one, I'd like to know, you start to reflect on your past, and you think about the journey you've gone through. What is something that you would tell yourself starting undergraduate? You're in your undergraduate studies, that you would tell yourself to give you that encouragement to push through. So our students right now, they're like you said, they're in that grind of the undergraduate studies. What is one thing you would say to yourself back then to help you push through some of the tough times, through the challenging situations of being away from family, new environments, the academic rigor? You may have a job. What is something you can leave our students with tonight to give them encouragement? Because that was once you. So kind of take that moment for a second, look at that you being an undergraduate, and what would you tell that person now that you're at this point in your academic career?
So first thing that I would say is that, one, you can do it. I mean, because like I didn't really say, I guess I should have said this earlier. I really wasn't sure what path I wanted to take. I was between like grad school, med school, dental school, something. I had no idea what I really wanted to do. And so I feel like you have so many choices and options in front of you. I know it can be very daunting when you're in college and you have all these classes you got to take. You think about graduating and all this other stuff, and COVID, going through all that at the same time. So I feel like just knowing that, just take a deep breath and just maybe reflect when you can, and that you will figure it out and it will all work out. Because we've all gotten here. And I think the message that we're all sending is that it seems like it kind of gets easier as you go. You work so hard in college, and it seems like once you get to graduate school or medical school that you've done a lot of the hard work. Sure, it's still hard and still difficult, but you can do it because you're laying the groundwork now. So I'd say just know that the fact that you're succeeding at this step in college suggests and says that you can do it, and anything you want to do going forward, you have the power within you to do it. So just don't doubt yourself. You've got it.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, yeah, like you're saying, you're capable, and know that you're needed in this space, and yeah, that you're, like you were saying, you can do it. I think it is gonna be challenging, and just expose yourself to as much as you can before you get to grad school, so that you can, I think, just be more sure of like what your interests are, what you do and don't like, and also make sure in whatever space that you're in, like search for that community, and do things that like prioritize your happiness, whether that's finding that tribe within your lab or finding it outside of your lab. Make sure that you're prioritizing your work-life balance so that at the end of the day you'll be happy.
Yep. For me, I would say be your number one fan. So I think if you believe you can do your things, it's amazing to have support from other people, but if you believe you can actually do it, I think that's just the very best. Also here at MD Anderson, I received a training on animal work, and the lady who was given the training will always say, it's not if, but when. And she would say it each time she was going to mention like a problem that could very highly possible happen, like a mice will try to bite you. And she would say like, it's not if, but when a mice will bite you. So always wear 2 gloves and on your dominant hand, stuff like that. So she would say it because she wanted us to be prepared for the problem, so that when the problem came, we were probably not going to go through the hardships. So what this has taught me, like I always did stay with that quote on my mind because I think I apply it now to my life, is that we know that there are some struggles that are going to come. Like we know that moment will happen. We will graduate from the bachelor's. So what will be my next step? Don't silence the question, like seek the help that you need. I think that's something that I did. Like I silenced the question for a long time because I was afraid to make the wrong decision. But then as I started talking to my PI in the bachelor's and then to my friends, I noticed like it's a valid question, and you should think about it. So I think that we shouldn't be afraid of the hard moments that may come through our journey, but we should always seek to be prepared. Also, something else is that, like, for example, when applying to graduate school, you may be offered different positions or something, or you may have too many options. And you may see like, oh, this is a really good option, but it doesn't feel right. And people may even tell you like, how does it not feel right? Like that's great that you got it. Well, you also have to hear that it may be a great option for everyone, but maybe not you. For example, for me, I chose to live in Houston instead of a colder place because I knew I was never going to tolerate the cold, or because I knew it would take me 8 hours to go back to Puerto Rico rather than just 4, and I would be able to afford it. So again, know your priorities, and then you'll know what's the best option for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. You know, there's one last thing. If somebody feels like they got something that that maybe our students don't know, or if it's like something that just seems obvious to you, but maybe people overlook, money's important. Money's important. So we have the Bridge to the Doctorate program with the LSAMP LSAMP kind of alignment, and we let our students know about that program. But is there one tip, strategy, place you can look that maybe people overlook at times in trying to get their graduate studies funding? And we'll end with that today.
For graduate funding, a lot of programs that I know some people were able to get into were funded. Sometimes people are not able to get in funded programs, but I would like different things that I applied for that I think that I would encourage you all to apply for is definitely NSF. That's a huge one. And if you happen to not get it, when you apply, you would be applying for these the fall of your last year in undergrad. And if you happen to not get NSF then you can reapply once you get to graduate school, I think once, and then that's the last opportunity. GEM is another big one, and Ford. I think those are like kind of like the three big applications that people do. There's also another scholars program or like funding source that I did that's newer. It's called the Wade Scholars Program, and that is specific to Stanford. So yeah, but they kind of did. I was in like their inaugural class, and they provided funding even for students who aren't going to Stanford. I don't know if they'll be doing that moving forward, but Stanford is an amazing school. So if you happen to get into Stanford and get the Wade Scholars Program, then yeah, I think that's a great funding source. I think those are all the things I can think of off the top of my head. And then schools have like school specific scholarships and funding sources that they'll sometimes provide to students based off of their application or things like that.
One thing that I'll also mention is there are a lot, like also, as Howard mentioned, there are school-specific scholarships, but you can look like through the NIH. There are a lot of scholarship and grants on there, and there's also state scholarships you can do. Like, for instance, I got a Clinical and Translational Science Institute grant for myself for the last year or two. That I think most schools have like a CTSI type of mechanism that you can do for translational sciences and research. So, I mean, there are different mechanisms out there depending if you just has happened to look for it. And that's one that's through the NIH as well. So there, you just have to just kind of just look for it, find it, but also you can talk to your PI, which will also is a great avenue where to look, because a PI's job is to stay funded. So they would know better than anybody.
Yep. Also, in my case, my school at MD Anderson, it's funded by the NIH and the graduate school in the first year, and then your PI would take over. But you can also apply to internal fellowships that the graduate school offers, or external fellowships. In my case, I also got recently a translational cancer research award. It's called the TL1, and it will cover my stipend and my tuition and everything. Also, something I would say is that even though you're a minority and you may be a minority, and there's many opportunities to apply for awards and stuff for minority students, you also should be okay and confident that you can apply to the national competitive awards. Like, I know I did not apply to any until just recently, and this is one of the awards that I got. So just feel confident you can do that.
Awesome. Thank you all. So I just want to say thank you to our three panelists today. I always like to say this for people coming on as panelists. Thank you for your endurance. If you would not have endured and moved past the challenges and the obstacles and the studying and all the exams and everything that you had to do, go through to get here, you will not be able to have your story to tell and be able to help those coming behind you. So really want to say thank you for that endurance. It's greatly appreciated and it's welcome. Also, just know that you are now part of the LSAMP LSMRCE family. So we will be utilizing your voices many more times here in the future to help provide information, education, and inspiration for our students. And then once again, students, we just want to say thank you for being you, which means that you're part of this family, which means we show up on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, or Thursday nights throughout the summers, throughout the school year, and you're always present and you're always engaged. And I just want to say thank you for that. And just continue to have encouragement and to continue to surround yourself with awesome people like our panelists tonight. They're out there. Reach out to them, connect with them, ask questions. Don't be a stranger. They're part of the family as well. So you don't have to go at this alone. So stay encouraged. And we look forward to seeing you at our next call. And we do want to thank all of our Alliance members and all of our supporters. It's greatly appreciated. It's a lot of work that goes into building these programs for our students. We have all of our collaborators listed there on your screen. Just want to say thank you for all the hard work that goes behind the scenes. I do want to just throw out a plug because we talked about it earlier. We do have our conference coming up this year. We're going to be in Chicago, and everything goes right, we will be in person. It's been a long time since we've seen each other. So just wanted to throw that out there, but also communicate that on July 12th, we have our graduate research fellowship. And just wanted to provide a lot of encouragement and support to you to say, press forward, don't give up, and stay connected with us. If you ever feel like you don't have someone to reach out to, just reach out to Deb, myself, Dr. Shaw. We're able to provide you the support and get you connected with those that you need. So want to say thank you again and look forward to talking to you on July 12th. Take care, everyone. Great job, everyone. Great job.
That was good. That was good. Thank you so much, Brian. Those were really good questions. I think that really, it was very, very informative for the students. And I feel like if anybody had some doubts, maybe they might change their mind.
Really good panel too.
Agreed.
Yes.
Agree 100% on that.
Yeah, it's like you got people that are in it. It's still live, right? It's still, they're like right in the middle of all of this. So it's definitely interesting to get their perspective.
They give me, they make me feel really impressed that this is our next generation moving in and doing what they need to do. Even, they're so into mentoring and reaching back and plus having the work-life balance. I just love it. I love it. So anyway, all right, off the feet, Henry.
I am sorry, I didn't think to include you earlier on, Dr. Shaw, on this topic specifically.
No, I'm fine. I enjoy listening to them. They excite me. Just listen to the energy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. You did awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hi, Henry. Bye, Henry.